At 6:52 in the morning, I opened Instagram and watched my own bakery announce a grand opening without me in a single photo. Not one. 5 years of flour on my hands, 5 years of my name on the loan, and in the caption, I didn't exist. My sister stood in front of the ovens I paid for, holding scissors to a ribbon I bought, under a sign that used to have my name on it. It didn't anymore. Before I tell you what I did about that, tell me in the comments, what state are you watching from? Because I need to know I'm not the only one who built something for people who quietly decided I wasn't needed anymore. My name is Morgan Ellis. I'm 33 years old, I work in brand marketing, and up until 3 weeks ago, I also co-owned a bakery in a suburb outside Dallas called Ellis and Rose. The Rose was my mother. The Ellis was me. I built that business the hard way, nights after my 9 to 5, weekends I should have spent resting, a personal loan of $38,000 I took out in my own name because my credit was better than anyone else's in the family. I told myself it was an investment in us. In something that would outlast all of us. I was wrong about the us part. Let me back up, because you need to understand the family I grew up in before you understand what they did. My mother, Diane, is 58. She's warm in public and razor-sharp in private. She has a way of making generosity sound like a debt you owe her for existing. My younger sister, Camille, is 29. She's never held a job longer than 8 months, and every single time something fell apart for her, I was the one who quietly put it back together. Rent. A car repair. A loan for a business class she never finished. And my stepfather, Gary, is the kind of man who calls conflict drama and leaves the room before it starts. He never once told my mother no. Not to her face. The bakery was supposed to be different. Mom had always wanted to run a shop, she used to bake for the whole block when I was a kid, and people loved her. So when I got a small windfall from a stock vesting at my company, I didn't buy a car. I didn't take a vacation. I put it into a lease, told Mom I'd co-sign everything, and we opened Ellis and Rose 18 months later. I paid the lease. I paid the equipment financing. I built the website, ran the ads, designed the packaging, and worked the register on weekends on top of my full-time job, because Camille, who was supposedly the operations partner, kept having a rough month. For 4 years, I told myself the sacrifice was temporary. That once the shop stabilized, I'd step back and just be a silent partner, cashing in on something I built. I did not expect to be erased instead. It started small. A new sign got ordered, Rose and Company, instead of Ellis and Rose. Mom said it was a rebrand, that the printer made an error and it was too expensive to redo before opening weekend. I let it go. That was my first mistake. Then I noticed the business Instagram, the one I had built from 0 followers to 11,000, had a new admin, Camille. When I asked why, Mom said Camille needed something to be proud of. Then came the call from our accountant. Casual. Almost an afterthought. Hey, just confirming, you're stepping down as managing member on the LLC paperwork this quarter, right? Diane mentioned you wanted to simplify things before the expansion. I sat in my car in a parking garage for 11 minutes before I could speak. I had never said that. Not once. I called Mom. She was breezy. Honey, it's just paperwork. You're still involved. We just needed Camille's name on there for the new location's lease. Landlords like to see the operator listed, not an outside investor. An outside investor. That's what she called me. After I'd paid $38,000 of my own debt to build the thing. I didn't argue. I said I needed to think, and I hung up. That night, I pulled every financial document I had. Every loan statement. Every invoice with my name and signature on it. Every email where I negotiated with vendors, designed the menu boards, hired the first 2 employees. I organized it in a folder I quietly titled Receipts. Because I had a feeling I was going to need them. 2 weeks later, the second location's grand opening announcement went up. Rose and Company is expanding. Huge thanks to our incredible founder Diane Rose and operations lead Camille Rose for building something Dallas can be proud of. Rose. Camille had changed her last name on the business page to Rose, my mother's maiden name. Erasing Ellis from the story completely, not just from the sign, but from the family tree of the business itself. The comments were a parade. You two are unstoppable. So inspiring, a mother-daughter dream team. Dallas needed this. Not one person asked where I was. Because as far as the internet knew, I was never there. I sat with my phone in my lap for a long time. Not crying. Just still. The kind of still you go when your body hasn't caught up to what your mind already understands. That weekend, I drove to the original shop to pick up a mixer I owned personally, one I'd bought before we even opened. I let myself in the back door with my key, the one nobody had thought to take from me yet, and I heard voices from the office. Mom's voice, low. She still has access to the business account, Camille. We need her off that before the loan refinance goes through, or the bank will see two signers and it complicates things. Camille, laughing. She'll be fine. She always is. She likes being needed. Then my mother said the sentence that finished it for me. She's not a partner anymore, sweetheart. She's just the bank. I stood there with my hand on a mixer I bought with my own paycheck, in a shop I financed with my own name, listening to my mother describe me as an ATM with feelings. I didn't say a word. I put the mixer back exactly where it was. And I left. That night I didn't cry either. I made tea, sat down at my kitchen table, and did the only thing that has ever made me feel steady in my life. I got organized. I pulled the LLC operating agreement, the real one, the one I'd signed, which still listed me as 60% managing member, no matter what paperwork anyone claimed I'd agreed to sign away. I pulled every loan document with my signature and my social security number on it. I pulled 5 years of bank statements showing the transfers from my personal account into the business account, over $61,000 across 4 years, once you counted the loan, the equipment, and the temporary help I'd quietly wired every time Camille came up short. I called a business attorney the next morning. Her first question was simple: has anyone actually filed paperwork removing you as managing member with the Secretary of State? They hadn't. Because they couldn't, not without my signature, which they never got. The accountant's call had been a bluff, or a mistake, or a test to see if I'd just go along with it quietly. I wasn't going to. The attorney helped me draft something simple and devastating, a formal notice, as majority managing member, informing the bank, the landlord, and the new location's leasing agent that any documents filed without my signature were invalid, and that as of that date, I was formally reasserting operational control of Ellis and Rose LLC, including the new location opening under a name I never approved. I didn't send it yet. I wanted to do this in person, at a moment they couldn't spin, couldn't soften, couldn't smile through for an Instagram caption. Grand opening day was in 9 days. The new shop looked beautiful. I'll give them that. Exposed brick, a mural of roses climbing the back wall, string lights outside for the ribbon cutting. A local news van was even parked out front. Camille had pitched the story to a morning show as a mother-daughter bakery success story. I stood at the edge of the small crowd in a blazer, holding a manila folder, and nobody noticed me until the reporter asked my mother to say a few words before the ribbon cutting. 5 years ago, my mother said into the microphone, my daughter Camille and I had a dream. We poured our hearts into this. I stepped forward. Actually, I said, loud enough for the mic to catch it, you poured my $61,000 into this. Heads turned. The reporter's eyebrows went up. My mother's smile cracked at the edges but held. Morgan, honey, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time, I said. Since we're telling the founding story on camera, let's tell the whole thing. I opened the folder. I held up the operating agreement, my name highlighted where it said managing member, 60%. I held up the loan statement with my name and my monthly payments. I held up a printed copy of the accountant's email referencing a document I never signed. This shop exists because I took out a loan in my name and made every payment for 4 years while working a full-time job. My name was removed from the sign, the social media, and nearly the legal paperwork, without my knowledge or my signature. Camille's face went white. You're doing this here? On opening day? You did this to me quietly, for months, I said. I'm just finishing the story in the same place you started it. My stepfather, predictably, said nothing and stared at his shoes. But then someone I didn't expect stepped through the small crowd. My grandmother, Ruth, 79, sharp as ever, who I'd invited without telling anyone else. She'd raised my mother, and she'd never once been fooled by her. Diane, she said, cane tapping the sidewalk, is this true? Did you take her name off her own business? My mother didn't answer. That was answer enough. My grandmother turned to the small crowd, then back to my mother. You didn't build a bakery, Diane. You built a story you could tell without your daughter in it. That's not a legacy. That's a lie with good lighting. I didn't need to say much more after that. I handed the reporter my attorney's card, said the legal filing correcting ownership records was already in progress, and that Ellis and Rose LLC would be releasing its own statement. Then I turned and walked to my car while the ribbon still hung, uncut, behind me. 11 days later, my attorney called. Facing a legal challenge, a reversed refinance, and a very uncomfortable local news follow-up story, my mother and Camille agreed to a settlement rather than a drawn-out ownership dispute, full buyout of my stake, repayment of the $61,000, and my name permanently removed from any future business they operated together, which, frankly, I wanted anyway. The wire transfer landed on a quiet Tuesday morning. No apology attached. Just the number. I didn't gloat. I didn't post about it. I closed my laptop, made coffee, and sat on my balcony for 20 minutes just breathing, the way you breathe after finally putting down something heavy you didn't realize you'd been carrying with both arms for years. I called my grandmother that afternoon. They paid, I told her. Of course they did, she said. Guilt has a due date too, eventually. We sat on the phone in comfortable silence for a while before she said the thing that stuck with me most. You don't owe anyone a seat at your table just because you share blood with them, Morgan. You've earned the right to choose who gets to stay. I used to think love meant giving until it hurt, and calling the hurt sacrifice. I know better now. Real love doesn't need your name erased to make room for someone else's story. If you've ever built something, a business, a home, a life, and watched someone you love try to write you out of it, I want you to hear this, you're allowed to correct the record. Quietly, or in front of everyone. Whatever it takes. You're not the bank. You're not the outside investor. You're the foundation. And foundations don't apologize for holding the whole thing up. If this story hit close to home, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever had to reclaim something, your name, your business, your peace, hit subscribe, because you're definitely not the only one. I wasn't given my peace back. I took it. If this story hit close to home, drop a comment and let me know, what state are you watching from? And if you believe people deserve to reclaim what's theirs, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because trust me, this is not the last story like this you're gonna hear. Like this video if you're never letting anyone erase your name from your own story again. See you in the next one.